In this lesson, you will learn how to create this amazing cinematic chrome text effect using layer styles and the power of smart objects. Let's jump into the lesson and start by creating a new document with dimensions of 2600 by 1500. Click Create. First, start with a solid color and type in some text. The text in this case is from an imaginary film title. You need to center the text, so select everything and align with the horizontal and vertical buttons in the top menu. This font is called Cinzel and will be provided to you for download. Convert the text layer to a smart object by right-clicking and selecting Convert to Smart Object before you begin creating the effect. Make a copy of it and hide the original. Group the original layer and call it Text Effect. Then group the Fill Color layer and call it Background. Go back to the text layer and apply a layer style by double-clicking on the layer. First, decrease the fill opacity to 0. Add a color overlay and choose a light gray color. Next, go to Bevel and Emboss and change the technique to Chisel Hard. Increase the depth all the way to the top, direction up, size 250 pixels, and leave Soften at 0. Change the angle to 60 degrees, the altitude to 30, and uncheck Use Global Light. In Gloss Contour, choose Cone Inverted. Now change the highlight mode to Overlay. Leave the color to white. Decrease the opacity to 15% and the shadow opacity to 35%. That's it for the first layer. We are going to do this with multiple layers. Click OK and duplicate the layer by pressing Ctrl+J. Double-click on it and in this layer uncheck Color Overlay. Then go to Bevel and Emboss and change the angle to 130 degrees, the altitude to 20, the contour to cone, check Anti-Aliased, change the highlight blending mode to Hard Mix, the color to light gray, the opacity to 65%, the shadow color to a dark blue shade, and decrease the opacity to 20%. Next, add an inner shadow. Choose a dark color and change the opacity to 50%, the angle to 90 degrees, and the distance to 1 and the size to 1. Now go to Satin and change the blending mode to Linear Dodge. The angle to 90 degrees, the distance to 21, the size 13, and then in Contour, choose Rolling Slope and uncheck Invert. The next layer style is Pattern Overlay. Choose this noise pattern, which will be provided for you to download. Leave the scale to 100%, decrease the opacity to 20%, and change the blending mode to Overlay. That will give it a rusty effect. Now click OK, and that will be it for this layer. You still have one last layer to work with, so again, duplicate the layer, then uncheck all preview layer styles, and go to bevel and emboss. Here, change the technique to smooth, decrease the size to 0, the direction to 90 degrees, and the altitude to 70. Keep the gloss contour to the default. Then decrease the highlight opacity to 40%, change the shadow color to black, and the opacity to 100%. Go to Texture and choose this one from the pattern picker. Adjust the scale and depth to your liking, and then check Invert. This will give it a scratched metal effect. Lastly, add a pattern overlay. Choose the same texture, increase the opacity to 40%, and change the blending mode to multiply. That adds another layer of scratch effect. The text layer styles look really nice so far. You can stop here if you like it this way, but I'm going to take it a step further by adding a cinematic feel to it with a moody sky in the background and other lighting effects.